Okay, so to get things started, we're going to talk about one of the most problematic but also important things of a drum set, and that is the snare drum. Okay, so I know that there are so many different depths and compositions and who even knows? But I'm going to talk about it specifically from a worship standpoint of what I found to be very helpful and good dimensions and all that stuff. So, for good reason, the holy grail of snare drums is the Ludwig Black Beauty. They are unbelievable. They are also very expensive. So every company in the world kind of makes their own version of a Black Beauty. I would just say this, from the Bethel to Elevation to everything I've ever been a part of, a good metal snare drum such as this, 6.5 by 14, is just gonna get everything you need done. It can sound good tuned up with a little crack. It sounds good dropped down, for the kind of thud and the sand, the like snare drum sound everybody's kind of going for right now. You can get both out of this snare drum and drums like it. A key thing to kind of consider, I think, is just finding a drum with good tube lugs on it. Tube lugs really do help with keeping tensions even on the top and the bottom. And they kind of play in unison together. So like if this one is loose, then the one on the bottom gets loose. But a good one-piece tube lug style 6.5 by 14 metal snare drum is an incredibly versatile snare drum specifically for church use. I think it's great. It sounds great up. It sounds great down. It sounds great muted. It sounds great wide open. It just sounds really good. So this is a good place to start. If you don't have one of these drums, that's okay. Don't feel bad about that. I've got several wood drums as well. I just prefer this depth. I think a deeper drum, a drum that has the ability to be dropped down lower if it needs to be, and to still have some meat and some body on it, even at a higher pitch tuning, is important in church world specifically. So that's the drum I'm using today. This one's made by Pearl. They don't make this one anymore, but it's a really good snare drum. Anything like this, it's kind of what we're talking about. That's the basis for what we're going to be talking about today. The heads that I like to use are kind of, it kind of doesn't matter again. I enjoy good 2-ply heads on snare drums just because they get hit so often. If you go with a 1-ply head, they sound really, really, really great. They also wear out pretty fast. So if you're trying to save money, or if it's a situation where the church just can't afford to buy drum heads that often, 2-ply heads on snare drum and toms, which we'll talk about later, is very helpful. So I prefer a 2-ply head. This one that I have on this drum is just a regular old Evans G2 2-ply coated snare drum head. On the bottom as well is a 1-ply, just clear snare side. It even says snare side. They removed all the question for you. It's and every company will make one that kind of has their own snare side as well. Super thin, basically, is the idea. I've got Pure Sound snares on the bottom of mine. You can see here. I changed all my snare drums a while ago over to Pure Sound. I just enjoy having more of the chains and being able to control the sand effect. That's kind of the way I describe that, the sand effect, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. This drum actually needs the head changed. As you can see right here, this circle right here, which is where the consistent impact happens, is starting to wear through. If you can see through the coating on your snare drum head, it is time to change the head. So hopefully you can see that, and you'll know like that's kind of the goal of what we're going to do here in just a little bit. So 6.5 by 14, chrome over brass, can't go wrong. Anything with that kind of depth, I would recommend specifically for church use. They make them as cheap or as expensive as you want to go. Every company kind of has their version of it. So go with that, and you'll be glad you did.